Bitcoin more oversold than during the FTX collapse when Bitcoin went to 16,000. It is time to pay attention. I mean, I think it's always time to pay attention. Ethereum on the 6 hour. Anytime we get any type of glimmer of bounce, this is a 6 hour. There are two things that I think are just, smart to do. And that is this. Number one, evaluate the targets to the upside, because this move right here on altcoin charts is not any type of bullish confirmation. It's the upside targets that we need to evaluate for bullish confirmation and what happens in those targets. And then number two is just preparing for, very simply, continuation to the downside, the momentum that cryptos are in right now. And these are two things I want to do on some altcoin charts. We're going to use Ethereum and ADA. We're also going to look at total crypto market cap on altcoins. As some things I want to point out to you on the zoomed out chart, namely the monthly. And we're going to dissect Bitcoin in this crazy oversold, record-breaking oversold environment. So hit the subscribe and like on the way in. So Bitcoin's more oversold than during the FTX collapse when Bitcoin went to 16,000. So you see it there in the chart. We're about to monitor that as we kind of dig in. But something I wanted to talk about before we really start talking about price action was this. This is insane to me. And I posted this chart, I think this morning. So the question is, as we fall, crypto prices fall, who is realizing the most losses in Bitcoin, right? It's just very simple. Between February 25th and 27th, which was yesterday, over $2 billion in realized losses came from the most recent market entrants. Look at this. To break this down very simply, 1 day to 1 week cohort and 1 week to 1 month cohort. This was 42% and 31%. We're looking at basically 73%, 74% really, of total losses, realized losses, came from just people that have bought Bitcoin in the last month. That is staggering. So basically, new entrants into this market are the bulk of the realized losses. Long-term holders, everybody, they're either holding or they're accumulating. That is something to pay attention to. Why are they doing that? It's amazing. Let's talk about price. It's amazing to see how the same price zone, 85, 90,000, was first overbought and is now completely oversold. This is how markets move. Things always need to cool down. This is progress. And I completely agree. And I wanted to speak to that a little bit further, and then we're going to look at the weekly chart. But on the daily chart, here's what we have going on. We have the oversold data point that we were just looking at in terms of comparing it to FTX. And I think I have this really in the thumbnail of the video. Look how oversold it is. So just to give you some perspective, here's the bottom of the bear market. That's the territory that we're in right now. And this fall and the fear that is happening right now is reminiscent of these times. But right now, FTX isn't happening. Actually, from a macro perspective, we are in an incredibly healthy space as far as crypto is concerned. Anti-crypto army, which was all the SEC in the bear market, no longer here. Gensler is gone. SEC is pro-crypto, basically. And then not only that, FTX, the Celsius, all of these bad players for the industry gone. And right now, we are in a new era for crypto. So we're in that same oversold, high fear thing happening, but it's at 83,000. It's not at 16,000. But I think really if we start zooming in on the move that's happening, I wanted to point this out, kind of what we just saw in this post. Think about this on the daily. It was a while ago, but it doesn't feel like that long ago, where we're breaking 70, heading to 80. Remember that? Just so much hype. Very exciting in November, all of this move kind of breaking out. So much hype though. And how quick things change, so much fear. And we're in the same price territory. And if you really think about this, if we're really going to be realistic about it, when we look at any chart, and this is a Bitcoin chart, it is time to always become cautious right here. And it is time to become bullish right here. And it seems like from a sentiment perspective, and it happens every time, the opposite is what happens, right? And we can zoom out on a Bitcoin chart and we can look at sentiment throughout all of these times this has happened, right? We can even just go back here. So much hype in this overbought, but really what should be there is caution because we're getting overbought. It might say it's time to cool off. It's time for a dip. And same thing here. So very interesting, that dynamic. But if we can train our emotions to not get involved here and just look at the data, and this is what I try and do, that's why when we get overextended on these charts, Bitcoin, altcoin charts, we get overextended for moving averages and we're entering overbought, it's always kind of like, all right, let's chill, let's cool off. Don't know what it will look like. Don't know what structure will look like, right? But Bitcoin has given us a structure and we sure have cooled off. And not only that, the structure on the short term plays into the long term. The inverse head and shoulders, the normalcy of a throwback right now to this area. So the question for all of these charts is kind of like, well, is the bottom in? And I would not ultimately sit here and say, it's done, the worst is over, it's time to go up. Because you can go back to previous kind of swing lows as we do enter oversold environments in previous moves for Bitcoin. And you can just see, no matter which one, it's like, it kind of just keeps trickling sideways. And this is often the case for all bottoming out environments, right? So that is something I think we need to anticipate right now is even more downside. I think there's such a strong case that we revisit the 70s. Right now we're at 83. It was a nice little bounce out of the 70s. There's a strong case Bitcoin trickles down even further and maybe even tests the 50-week moving average here on the weekly around 74, 75,000. So that's Bitcoin. I want to look at total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin and ETH. This is an altcoin chart, and then I'm going to just kind of quickly dissect Ethereum and ADA because I think the price action there is helpful. But going back here to the monthly, I just want to point something out to you. And none of us know how this is going to play out. But one thing I can tell you, this cycle is different. And it has fooled a lot of people. That is to say, Bitcoin having 2020, here is altcoin season really kicking off. You can see it breaking the previous cycle high, all that good stuff. Everything we thought might happen at this purple line when we had this really nice candle in November, this box did not happen. In fact, it's been disappointment for altcoin holders. You can see it. And especially this month of February has just been absolutely terrible. But hidden within that data and disappointment, is there something incredibly bullish happening right now? That is to say, maybe not a parabolic multi-month run to all-time highs, but a slow growth for these cycles. And I just want to anticipate, and this plays into macroeconomic data, the potential for the US dollar getting ready to fall in the next couple of months, quantitative tightening coming to an end, right? If you just look at a zoomed out chart, if you remember, major quantitative easing phase kind of happening here after the COVID swing low. And maybe it's not a quantitative easing that's starting, but maybe just the end of quantitative tightening, right? But what if we're about to enter actually that very bullish environment for crypto? What could that possibly translate to on an altcoin chart? A very healthy looking altcoin chart, by the way, right? Exiting the bear market, consolidating, exiting kind of that consolidation, and now consolidating again. And what I really wanted to show you on this altcoin chart was the RSI on the monthly. What happens if right now, still in store for this cycle, is that just typical overbought? Look, we've not even really entered overbought at all for altcoins since last bull cycle. Not even happened yet. So what happens if that breakout occurs? And maybe there's still more downside, sideways, whatever. But look at the flow of the RSI. If this monthly chart is setting up for a move to continue higher, there could be a lot of bullishness in store. We have to evaluate, obviously, downside continually. And so we will. But even if that means revisiting these moving averages down here, 553 billion, the 20 weeks at 600 billion, that was a 50 week down there. It's a higher low on the moving average areas in an environment where altcoins, especially blue chips, they have narratives and fundamentals and institutional just interest right now like it's never had. So as we kind of fall in price, I think things become more bullish on the macro. And that's just my opinion. We go take a look at Ethereum. So what I wanted to talk about was, yeah, we're getting a little bit of a move. it doesn't mean anything on the short term. We have to be very careful here. But what I wanted to show you is the 6 hour on Ethereum. I think it's most helpful because if you look at a weekly, it looks very terrible. The weekly is helpful because it really paints this massive triangle. But what has happened for Ethereum is we broke through the lower trend line. What I'm evaluating for is a potential bounce to the trend line. So it's most illustrated on the 6 hour and starting to be kind of helpful on the daily, right? So what I'm looking for, and I talked about in the video last night, is a revisit to these areas. The 20 and the 200, or the 50 and the 200 moving average are around 2,900. The 20 moving average is around 60 or 2,600. So that entire area, as you can see, confluent with this lower trend line, that would be the pullback area for Ethereum to test. The bullish confirmation would be there, meaning if Ethereum starts closing candles above this channel and above all of these areas, now we have some bullish confirmation. Alternatively, there could be rejection. That could be a bearish signal. So that's the move that I'm waiting for Ethereum. Going over to ADA. ADA is kind of good and helpful in terms of just anticipating the bottoming out, because we look at ADA. Yes, it looks like there's some nice bullish divergence here on the RSI. But the thing is, we had kind of some bullish divergence back here on the RSI, right? But that didn't immediately signal, and a very similar high fear environment back here and here, it didn't immediately signal the bottom. However, I will say we could be like within that bottoming formation. So yeah, it was still pain ahead here, but just look, it really was kind of the bottoming out area. So we can be in the bottoming out area, but that doesn't mean we just won't kind of go lower and just sideways for a while. One thing I do want to say is it's kind of like, are we in this move or are we more in this move? Are we further along in this consolidation because we are kind of in a different part of the cycle right now or not? So same thing for ADA though, as we do anticipate maybe more sideways or even a little down. Here's that Fibonacci support that we've been talking about. That is basically this swing low to swing high down to that Fibonacci. It's sitting at support right now. If there's going to be a bounce for markets, and it's an if, I really don't know, I'd be watching a similar area. The 50-day right around 85 cents, the 20-day around 74, 75 cents. That channel, what does ADA do there? The bullish confirmation would be ADA breaking above and closing candles above those areas. But, you know, even a short-term bearish confirmation could be rejection at those areas for just more sideways pain and just testing previous lows. So I think as we zoom in on the charts, it gets hectic. We really don't know. But as we start zooming out on all of these charts, I think things become way more clear on whether it's altcoins or Bitcoin. So let's continue tracking these markets, everybody. I really appreciate you cruising through. If you're out there, please subscribe, turn notifications on, and if you enjoyed the video, please smash that like button. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.